Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Svelte Radio. Today we have yet another guest. Surprise! We always have guests these days. But first, some introductions. So I'm Kevin. I run a site called Svelte School, and I'm heavily involved in the Svelte Society and help out a lot around the Svelte community.
I'm Shawn. I am still in the process of switching jobs, but hopefully building a Svelte app in production for my next startup. And I mostly shitpost on Twitter for Svelte Society. We also did just launch the CFP for the Sveltesummit conference that is going to be happening in April, I think. And I'm very excited about organizing speakers for that.
I'm Antony. I'm the CTO of Beyonc, which is a booking system for tourism and leisure. I'm also a Svelte maintainer, alongside our guest today, who is Simon Holthausen. And Simon is what can I say? He's the person in charge of language tools. He's the code hero behind that. It's absolutely on fire at the moment. I would probably say it's one of the most active sort of segments of the Svelte organization. So all credit to him and the community, of course. So Simon, I'll let you continue with your introduction.
Yeah, thank you for the warm words. Yeah, I'm Simon. I work as a software engineer at a company called Axo. We do software development and consulting. And yeah, I don't know, more by accident than anything, I stumbled into the Svelte world, got really hyped, helped out getting the language tools, the VS Code extension forward. And yeah, now I'm a Svelte maintainer, like Antony. And yeah, really, thanks for having me.
Yeah, exciting. So you're also known on the Svelte Discord as Doom, right?
Yeah, right. It's my handle, yeah.
Yeah, so where does that come from? It's just
yeah,
a
so
random thing.
my original nickname back in the days when I was in puberty was Hitman Faker. I thought that was a very cool name at that time, and well, after puberty was over, I thought no, that doesn't work very well. So I thought, okay, I need a new nickname, and I was humming along like, dum, 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 what can I pick? Dum, dum, dum. And then I thought, oh, why not take this dum-de-dum? Yeah, and so it was just like, yeah, it's called Lautsprache in German. So,
wow, sounds interesting in German. What's Lautsprache?
The word for writing something down that sounds exactly like you.
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say right. It's more like there's another word for it, isn't there? When a word sounds like the thing that it describes. Is that onomatopoeia?
Yeah, this is above my pay grade.
Podcast.
All right, so TypeScript. Language tools. What's going on there?
TypeScript is a big part of language tools. That's definitely right. Yeah. So yeah, I was here on the show about, I don't know, almost a year ago, and I skipped through some of the issues that we closed since then, or we got since then, and yeah. So what changed between then and now? So it's overall we just worked hard to get rid of all the edge cases that people might occur when they just coding, and I think especially all these edge cases, when you're in the zone and you're coding and then your IntelliSense does something stupid that can really put you off. And we are trying really hard to minimize that. New things are about, we also added a lot of new things, like we now have auto-completion for events. So if you define an event via create event dispatcher from another component, you get auto-completion for that in the component that uses the component. You get comments for the props and events. So you hover over it, you see the docs. There were some new refactoring commands like extract into function, which works similar to the JavaScript or TypeScript one.
Oh, cool.
we got a simple extract into component refactoring. So you can select a part of a component in the markdown, which you want to extract into a new function, and you just can right-click, and then there should be a extract component, Svelte component command in the context menu, and then you can decide what's the name of the component, and then it will transfer that HTML into the other component and write the import for you.
So just for somebody who, let's pretend I'm completely uneducated in TypeScript, not because I am, no, I definitely am. Imagine if you're also completing events and you've got like a series of events like click, and you've got things like key up and key down. Are you maintaining a huge list of events that match the Svelte API? Or are you using, say, the type definitions within Svelte to generate those auto-completions? How does that work?
It works actually. It kind of is like that. So there are two parts to that. One is that we use the HTML language service that VS Code uses for its HTML intelligence too, and that one defines a lot of those events. So if you do auto-completion, you'll get that from that. But we also have to define and keep in track of a really big list of all these events inside a type definition file, so that we can show errors like, okay, you're using an event that doesn't exist. So for that, we have to keep a ever-growing list of events. So
you have this duplicate list that matches Svelte, right?
Yes, we do.
So is there a way to maybe like use that? If that list existed within Svelte itself, is there a way to use that list from there, or is that not a thing that's possible?
So if there was, I don't know, some kind of JSON definition, we could definitely look into generating something out of that. Yeah, that would be possible.
That'd be an interesting PR, because I've seen the code that adds those events to elements inside Svelte, and it's kind of like a big if statement, really. I'm guessing it's done that way for efficiency in terms of execution speed. But what I might say is that maybe if we put that into a JSON file and had it as a reference we could look up, maybe that would be sort of work better for people, save some of that manual overhead.
Yeah, definitely. There are also some other parts like all the warnings of that the Svelte compiler can put out. They are not in one place right now. Right. So, and you cannot silence all of them. So, like the accessibility warnings, you can turn off with the Svelte ignore command, but that doesn't work for all elements. And I think we could look into to get it to work for more elements, or maybe all of those warnings.
I think there's an open issue that's kind of being completed over time, which is to move all the errors and warnings into a single place. So I think that might help with that.
Yeah,
and I think as in terms of silencing the accessibility errors, I know there's two ways that those are fired. I can't remember the reason behind it, but there's basically some of them belong to Svelte and can be silenced via rollup, and some of them don't belong to Svelte and can't be. And I can't remember the exact nature of that. I think maybe some of them come from Acorn, or they come from some other internal project that we don't have the same level of control over. But yeah, definitely, I think things will move in the right direction to make that maintenance task easier, which would be quite nice.
Definitely.
I have a bit of a confession, which is I have never used the refactoring commands in VS Code or TypeScript. So like this stuff with the whole like refactor out into a component, or what was the other one that you said?
Extract into function something. You select some count block and you say, okay, extract that into a function that works in TypeScript, JavaScript, and now it also works in Svelte files.
Yeah, and it's something that I think the React world and Vue also have. It's just that I've never used it. Like, am I supposed to be right-clicking things all the time? And because I just copy and paste. I feel like there's productivity tips that other people use that I don't know about, or I don't use. I guess the question
really
is
funny,
how often do people use it? How often do you use it?
I use it all the time. I do so many extract into function, extract into constant, all over the place. I don't know. I just I couldn't live without these refactorings today. I don't know. It's so much nicer. The same with formatting.
Yeah.
Ever since I started using Prettier, I'm no longer able to format my code by hand. I'm unable to.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Prettier. Mostly because I'm stupid and can't configure it correctly, probably, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think that I used to use type languages a lot, and I do miss the kind of extracting functions and stuff, and I've sort of resorted to doing it manually now because I don't use TypeScript that much. I use JavaScript, but it would be really convenient to start using this again. So I don't know, the list of reasons maybe I should switch to TypeScript just keeps growing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, these things you can use in JavaScript too, I think. So these extract into constant function, you could use those too in JavaScript. So,
but there are some you can't use, right? Because they need a bit more.
Yeah, I think
definition.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of talking about moving between TypeScript and JavaScript. There's been a lot of discussion about how in SvelteKit you're using just the JS doc version of TypeScript. Is that true?
Right now, yes.
I mean. What are your feelings on that, Simon? And is that something that more people should explore?
So I think I'm the other side of the spectrum. I really like TypeScript, and I'd like to use it everywhere. And Rich just has a very different opinion on that. So he went with the JS doc approach, which is perfectly fine. For me, as long as I don't know, I didn't work myself yet that much with the SvelteKit code, so I cannot say, okay, this worked just as well with as it worked with TypeScript. So I cannot speak from experience for that. But I think some part of it will just feel more tedious to me than they would do with TypeScript. Especially around those things like, okay, you have to now define your types inside JS doc. And I'm just more used to typing the types right after inline. And I think that for me, at least, it's all coming down to habit and what you're used to. But for me, it just reads better. And I think some things like generics you cannot describe in a good way with JS doc, or maybe that changed. I don't know.
I think we had this. It was originally in TypeScript, the whole thing, and then Rich one day decided that TypeScript was kind of becoming, it was problematic for him as he was changing things quite a lot, and he decided to remove it. Well, he sort of, he offered up the notion that he'd remove it, and then there was a big discussion that lasted days about, yes and no, and there was like half people in the camp, half the maintainers in the camp of no, and half of them in yes, and then lots of umming and ahhing, lots of work to kind of try and make it workable, but then in the end we let's remove it for now and see how it goes without it, just whilst it's in this kind of state of massive flux. And then we'll re-add it later on. And I remember I mentioned to somebody on Twitter that we're gonna re-add it. It's not a permanent state. And then Rich popped up saying, "Well, actually," and now he's talking about making it all his projects at work just use the JS doc stuff or the TS doc stuff, whatever it is. So I don't know. I'm not getting involved because I don't have enough education in TypeScript to really know how it feels to write a whole project in TypeScript. But I will leave that to just sort of work itself out organically. I think it'll be interesting to see. To see the result of that.
Let the other people fight.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go on, I'm going to read a couple of sponsor spots, which aren't really sponsor spots, but you'll hear. All right. So first up, you can now support Svelte Radio directly. And by doing so, you'll get access to video versions of the podcast, or you'll be able to listen a couple of days early to the episodes. So if that's interesting, you can head over to svelteradio.com/support. And the support is much appreciated. And then if that's not something you're interested in doing, you can always leave a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Also helps out a lot. And yeah, that's it.
Woohoo!
Nice.
Woohoo, indeed.
Cool.
All right. So what other things are new in the language tool side? You sent us a list here a couple of days before about some things, and there's one thing called Svelte component typed. So what's that?
Yeah, so that's a new addition to Svelte core. There were quite some requests about, okay, how do I can use TypeScript inside my Svelte components, but then I'll have to transpile it to JavaScript to provide it to others as a library. But how do I write type definitions for that? So I need some type definition file, and I need to write down the types in there. And how can I make it so that the language tools will understand those types and will tell the user, hey, this prop does not exist, or this event does not exist. And so Svelte component type does exactly that. It helps you writing type definitions. So you just do, export class, then your component name extends Svelte component typed, and then there are 3 generic parameters: props, events, and slots, and you can type them all. So you can say, okay, this it has these props with these types, and these events with these types, and the same for slots, and that really should help library authors to write type definitions more easily.
Nice. It sounds like a big addition compared to before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I have a question. Which is like, where is this documented? Because I feel like people should want to look at code examples.
Yeah, documentation is a big ongoing issue. We also talked internally about this quite a lot already. It's kind of all dependent on each other. So we definitely want to redo the docs and also enhance the docs, because there's quite a bit to know about TypeScript specifics by now. And we definitely have to put them on the official site. And so that's definitely missing. But there are docs for the inside the language tools, but I mean they are not directly explorable from the official site. So yeah, that's definitely still missing. Docs are
Well, if you listen to Svelte Radio, then you don't need the docs.
Yeah, right.
Svelte Radio is the docs.
Right. So listen to the docs. Yeah.
maybe that's the next big thing, like audio documentation.
Yeah, actually, there's some people in the AWS ecosystem that actually do like dramatic readings of their docs. From beginning to, you just live stream, and then there's like some calming music in the background, and then you just read from beginning to end. Actually, you learn quite a few things.
I really like that idea. That's a really good idea. I really dramatic readings of anything is great, but documentation is just even better. Oh, yeah. That's how I'm going to learn TypeScript.
Yeah. Speaking of like dramatic, what do you call it? Dramatic readings. Yeah, so I've been reading these fantasy books. I think I picked one of them like a couple of episodes back, maybe 10 episodes.
Yeah, Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, exactly. They're so good. It's so much better than like a regular audiobook. Cannot recommend it enough. Sorry, bit of a tangent there.
No, it's good. Yeah, I like to hear that people are still enjoying, the stuff that they picked, and it's like a double pick.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so this thing about documentation, maybe that's also something that's missing a bit in general in Svelte, and I think we say this quite a lot, and it's like general examples or like videos by people doing different things. Lee Howe has been doing great with the store stuff lately. Those are awesome. But maybe it should be a priority to get something out on how to do like a proper library with TypeScript and everything set up somehow. Yeah. I know there's the Svelte template repo, I think.
Yep, component template.
Component template. Exactly, that one. I haven't touched that in ages, but I assume that can be improved some bit. Maybe it already has TypeScript out of the box, and I'm just not aware of that.
There are some open PRs to get something automated, so you can compile to JS from TS. But I don't know if they have landed yet, because there were some concerns about usage and just in general, the documentation, how to use it, edge cases when it doesn't work. Yeah. There are only things one can do at a time. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying someone should do it. Or would be nice if it was there.
It's issue 29 on the component template repo, where people are discussing some of the details with publishing these things. It is pretty complicated sometimes, especially if you need to take into account SSR. So,
I think I always end up scrapping my TypeScript plans because I always have a trouble setting it up correctly, getting it to work properly with everything else. It's probably my main problem with it.
That was also one of the main reasons why Rich threw it out of SvelteKit, because there were just so many problems with setting it up correctly in the context of a mono repo, and so getting rid of tooling is always. I mean, no tooling is better than, or no build step is better than any build step. That was his main notion there, I think. Yeah, definitely.
We actually, so a couple of people created a SvelteKit incognito Discord server where we could
where we
can discuss it without spamming the regular Discord with questions and stuff, because we know that people don't really want to listen to SvelteKit stuff all the time, right?
I like that. I like these people, whoever they are.
Yeah,
it's really crazy to me how many people are jumping on it so early. It's really fascinating.
Yeah,
new, shiny,
it's very exciting though. Anything else about the Svelte component template we want to discuss? Probably not. There's also preprocessor support, right? Source map support.
Source map support, yeah, that's another thing that landed recently. So Svelte has much better source map support now, and that means that if you now get an error and you're using TypeScript, for example, you'll get the error pinpointed to the correct location in the Svelte code, which wasn't always the case previously, and that was really a huge community effort. So
That's
I don't
great.
know. It was Dimitraj and Milahau, I think that those were their handles. They basically did all the work, and so huge props to them for bringing that in.
Yeah. So source maps and obfuscating code in production. That's something I've seen a lot of people. They're asking why can I see my Svelte code in the browser on my site? And I personally, I think it's a good thing that you can see it, because then you can look at how someone else built something. But I feel like this thing that some people think that if you obfuscate the code, you can't figure it out, someone can copy it somehow. But that's obviously not the case, right? I'm curious about how does source maps does that affect anything else, like loading times and stuff like that in general? I don't know enough about it, but they're just loaded if you have an error, right?
I think so. So once there's something where the source code location could be looked up, then I think the browsers will try to load it if it's there. So if you turn off source maps for your production builds and you don't deploy the source maps along with the generated code, you won't see the original code in the browser.
Yeah, so I've actually had to wrestle with this for a previous project of mine, and there's the security angle, and then there's the data angle. The data angle is pretty simple. The source map is not downloaded unless you have the browser DevTools open, which means you're a dev. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to send a source map for a regular user who has is not going to use it. But having source maps in production is a open question. I think the majority consensus is in favor of it, but there's some people who have the security argument, right? Like, if you can see my source code, then you can figure out how my API works, blah, blah, blah. The argument against that is that if you're relying on that amount of security by obscurity, then you're not being very secure at all. Your API should be immune to that. And you should not care if anything on your front end is seen by attackers, because that's the easiest part to see. So the argument for putting source maps in production is that when you're developing and you see a bug in production, you can actually open up your DevTools and actually see what's going on with that. And the other, there's a tool that I'm tracking, which is replay.io, which actually helps you record. It's like Loom. I don't know if you guys have seen like Loom or all these recording tools, bug reporting tools. It records a video, but it's also a custom browser that plays back the JavaScript code executed, including the source maps. So when you have source maps, you enable DevTools like that just record all the data passing through. You can pause and then check if is this what I expect it to be, and then continue, add comments. And I think it's all enabled by having source maps. So we need to, I guess, normalize shipping source maps in production.
Shawn, I'm interested just tangentially here.
Tangentially.
When you say tangentially,
tangentially,
I have no idea. This is not an English language podcast today.
You're the English man.
I know, and I'm too tired. I'm just too tired to even speak.
All right. I'll stop giving you shit.
No, it's fine. So what I was going to say is, when you say you're tracking something, what does that mean to you? Because it's interesting. I see you track a lot of projects.
So this comes from my background as a finance person. I have investment theses that I track, which is like, I think that this could be a huge thing in the future, and I better start collecting data points on this, because it takes a while for something, especially things which are in early stages, when you're like not really sure if like it's worth your time. It's just worth like looking out, because it just means that I think that this could be big. That's all it is. And I have a mental register of like, last month I saw this month I saw that. It could just not be a thing, and I might just forget about it. But you have to choose what you track and what you ignore, because there's too much to know everything about. But I think it's a good idea to not just give up on tracking everything. You should have some idea of like, I think this could be huge, so because you can bet early on it.
I wondered if you had like your own registry of things that you're kind of actively watching, or if it's just mentally in your head, that's different, I suppose.
I'm imagining like a JavaScript, like a node script that like opens 50 browser tabs or something.
So I do actually watch repos. I think one of the underrated features of GitHub is that you can just like snoop on notifications of like activity going on in different repos. And I think it's a good way to track what's going on without being super involved. But if you see a bunch of activity, you know like something's going on.
GitHub's kind of missing a trick, and maybe Nat Friedman sort of listens to our podcast. No, I don't think he does. But I wonder if like the stars feature of GitHub could be a lot better. Because you tend to star stuff and that's it. You starred everything, and I've starred hundreds of repositories over the years, but it's just a big list, and I can't remember what's in there, what I want to search for. If I could categorize that better, that would be great. A better way of sort of, like you say, tracking it, a way of seeing things.
Yeah.
Well, everyone starred the language tools repo.
Yeah.
I do that. But like I even star private repos of my coworkers. So like I'll go onto my coworkers repo, and it'll just be one star. But like at least they see that like I'm giving them props for like working hard on something.
It's nice.
It's nice like surprise. You open your private repo and like, ooh.
I mean it's so easy. Why not? I have a question about the refactoring, the component refactoring thing. I think there's a movement within Svelte. Oh, at least like, well, okay. I saw Dan Abramov from the React team constantly making digs at Svelte about how we only have a single file component, and I think there's always some discussion about like multiple files in one component. I don't know how I feel about that, and I was wondering if you had thoughts, because it would be easier to refactor things into multiple components if you could just keep them in the same file.
I personally don't like that. I don't know. I don't have an issue with many files, and if each file has about 20 lines of code, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I have the same opinion that my IDE, or be it VS Code, makes it so easy to just manipulate a bunch of files at once. I can open them all on the same screen. I can play around with them. I would rather have that than pollute the Svelte API with a kind of template tag. The joy of Svelte is it detects in your components when you have a script tag and a style tag, and everything else is HTML, and that's really nice. You don't need that React style empty tag that you have, or a wrapper component or a root component fragments. That's the one, fragments. You don't need any of that complexity, mysteriousness, things that break CSS grid, for example, because you can't have a direct child of something to make the elements within inside something a grid. Or I ran into a problem like that once with those template tags. So I would much rather have it just as it is now, simple, and take the hit that you can't put 100 components in a single file. Sure, it might make prototyping very, very slightly slower, but I think that Svelte itself makes prototyping faster. So therefore, it's, in my opinion at least, it still seems that you're going to get a speed and ease benefit of prototyping in Svelte versus anything else.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, now that you know about the extract component command, you can just write your file, and then if it becomes big, you can just extract that.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
I'm actually going to start using it today. I didn't know it existed.
Simon, since you're sort of the resident TypeScript expert, I was wondering if your thoughts on TypeScript's recent features in general. Like, there's like the template types. I don't know. They're very fancy.
Yeah, I really love the template types. It's a very, very, very interesting feature. The template type templates.
Can you describe them for people who may not know what they are?
Basically, it's you get a whole lot more dynamic with typing, and you can describe how a type will be converted to another type, but not the values, but the keys of those types. So I don't know. For example, let's say you have an interface with prop A, and you want to define another interface which has prop A change. So, and you don't want to duplicate that. So you just want to append change to every prop. And you can do that now with these cool. template literal types. And it's a really interesting feature. I don't think that a lot of people would use it, but I think for library authors especially, it can be really liberating to use that, because it opens up quite a lot of doors for more generic typing. And I also thought about how we could maybe use that in the language tools. I haven't thought too deeply about it, but there could be some benefit to using that for us as well.
So is that coming in the 4.2 release, or is that?
I think it's already available since 4.1. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it turns people have done really crazy things, like implemented JSON parser within types.
Or SQL. It's crazy what you can do with that now.
It turns the TypeScript type system into like a full, I guess, like string parsing, string generation thing. Whereas in the past, TypeScript types would be pretty static. Like you define them up front, and that's about it. That's all you can use. Or you'd have to use a generic and call them weird names like T. But
it kind of sounds like when you see these like really cool CSS things that people do, like they like build complete games and just CSS.
They're really impressive.
The CSS counter.
Yeah.
I saw a CSS one the other day, which is like a bunch of balls on a grid that go up and down like that, and it's very little CSS there. It's really impressive.
You can do so much in CSS now. It's amazing.
You can. It's kind of scary because it's one of those points where it starts to cross over into something that is a language in its own right. And it is a language anyway. But I mean, it becomes it blurs the lines between where JavaScript ends and CSS starts. And I don't know how I feel about that, really. I quite like the single thing for a single purpose style of things.
Yep. All right. So you also had a point about hopefully some incoming TS support for ESLint, for the ESLint plugin.
Yeah, right. And by now it actually landed. So ESLint plugin
nice.
Svelte 3 now has TS TypeScript support.
What does that mean, though?
What does that mean? It means that with some slight adjustments to your ESLint config, you can now get ESLint checks in your Svelte files if you use TypeScript, which wasn't the case before.
I see.
They were all wrong. And so before
Errors
that,
everywhere.
it only worked for JavaScript inside Svelte files. And now it works for TypeScript files too.
That's great.
For TypeScript inside Svelte files. So that landed just about 2 days ago, I think, at the time of this recording.
Yeah, that's nice.
I guess it's a little rough around the edges. There may be some things that don't work as expected. Someone already did a PR to fix some of those things, and it's there, and you can finally use it inside Svelte files. So yeah, I think that's what quite a lot of people. I don't know. In these issues, some people were like, "Oh, I'm blocked from using Svelte until this TypeScript support lands in ESLint. I cannot live without that." And so. Those people should be unblocked now.
Yeah, that's great. It's kind of like those people that were blocked from using Svelte before TypeScript.
Yeah, right.
So any other like cool things that's going on in the language tools sphere?
So one big thing that we haven't solved yet is that if you are inside a Svelte file, you get all these nice IntelliSense features, and you can do you can refactor a prop, and that prop will be renamed in the other Svelte files too, etc. Or you can rename a variable, and it also will be renamed in TS files which use that. But that doesn't work once you're in a TypeScript or JavaScript file. So once you're in JavaScript or TypeScript in a file of then you'll just, VS Code or the others just don't know what's this Svelte file extension. They just cannot really deal with that. So the crossing the boundary of getting Svelte support in the context of JavaScript or TypeScript files, that's something we haven't accomplished yet. But we've picked up work on that. So Pushkin has done some exploration on that lately, and so we're starting to explore that, and hopefully we can show something in that regard soon. So what that would mean is that if you do a refactoring of, I don't know, you have a store in a JavaScript or TypeScript file, and you want to rename that store, and with a plugin which we will write for that, you then would get the rename working in Svelte files too. So those will be not only renamed in other JS or TS files, but it will also be renamed in the Svelte files. Or you can say, okay, I want to see all usages of that Svelte component that I have imported as a barrel export, for example, in my TypeScript file right here. And you can just say, okay, find all references inside the TypeScript file, and will also show you the references inside Svelte files. All these things. So this crossing the boundaries, this is the thing.
Work in progress.
Work in progress, right? And the other thing is for TypeScript specifically, just getting better. So right now you cannot really define generics for props or events, something like that. So I don't know, you have a Svelte file, and then you have a prop of a certain type, which you don't care about which type it is, and you have an event that will be of the same type than the prop, but you don't know in advance what type it is. And generics would be really good for that, and that hasn't happened yet. So support for that hasn't landed yet, and fleshing out the API is a ongoing progress too. And hopefully we'll get agreement on that someday, and then that will be part of the enhanced TypeScript support too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So those are the two big work in progress things, I would say.
So looking into like the SvelteKit future, how do the language tools work together with SvelteKit in the future? Have you guys discussed anything like will there be specific features in the VS Code plugin, for example, that makes things easier in SvelteKit or something like that?
We haven't discussed about this on that level yet, but from a general perspective, it should work just as it does today with Svelte files. So
yep.
you can use SvelteKit just like you can use any other Svelte related project with the language tool. So there's no problem there. There may be some special tags that you can set, which we will add support for in the language tools. I don't know, but or maybe one could think about, okay, if someone is in a script context module and he's starting to type export const l, and then we can maybe provide an auto-completion for the load interface, something like that. But
neat.
Those would be things we could add. But in general, it should just like work out of the box, just it works with regular Svelte.
Yep, that's great. All right, any other questions or thoughts about TypeScript? No. All right, so let's go to the next section of the show, which today is domain squatting. So, like a couple of weeks ago, I got this weird email from some company in Shanghai about some. So I think this was like a domain registrar in China that emailed me and asking if some random company that tried to register svelteradio.cn and svelteradio.com.cn and all these weird variations of the Svelte Radio domain name, asking if they were affiliated with me, which I promptly replied and said no. I have no idea who this is. So that's fun. And then I got like another email which just said like, yeah, we're not going to care about what you say. We're going to register them anyway. But so
do we have competition, or do we have friends in China? Like what's the takeaway?
I don't know. If you are the one listening to this, someone out there in the ether, maybe contact us and we can, I don't know, talk. See.
Yeah, if you use Svelte in China, we definitely want to talk.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of funny thing that happened. All right. So next up we have the controversial opinions, right?
Controversial opinions.
And I'll let Antony go first because he's the one that started the segment.
File,
yeah,
right? So
I've been bit by this.
It's going to make your life.
Oh yeah, me too.
And people are getting bitten by it all the time. So people on Twitter complaining about it. They're losing hours, they're losing days of time, and it just shouldn't happen at all. And the reason I think that the Mac has the case insensitivity by default is because it's kind of a historical thing. I think the previous file system before their current one had that insensitivity. The new one supports case sensitivity. It's Unix based, of course it works, but to retain compatibility and predictability, they've made it insensitive by default. And I know for a fact that Adobe Photoshop and another Adobe tool, they don't work if you have a case-sensitive file system. So you're actually encouraged to format insensitively, which is just infuriating to me. So for developers, that's obviously really super annoying. Definitely not an ideal situation to be in. And I just think that these tools should be forced to update, and Mac should do their standard thing where they go, well, this is the future and this is what's happening and that's that. And I'm surprised they haven't done it with the case insensitivity. And Windows, I mean, Windows is a lost cause anyway, let's face it. But basically Windows, I don't even think, maybe you can format NTFS to become case sensitive, I'm not sure, but it's definitely not encouraged. It's not even common. I can't even imagine a system where that's the case because I don't think anything would work properly on it. But yeah, so anyway, my point is specifics are better, case sensitivity is better. They are different files. It's a different ASCII code. It's a different byte. It's not at all the same file name, even for a human. If it reads the same, it's not the same file.
Yeah.
So they're bad.
All right.
Love it.
Yep. That was nice rant.
I've got lots of nice rants.
I think at least in this, between us four, you have a popular opinion right there.
Yeah.
Not an unpopular one.
Does sound like that.
I wonder how the two Mac users, how they're formatted though.
That's a good question.
I just never rename my files, so I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. I did run into this issue like not too long ago. Like I saw a file that was lowercase and it just irritated me so much that I had to like fix it.
We had the same situation with a README file. Someone made it lowercase and the other one was all uppercase, and it caused so much confusion.
Nightmare. Are you on Windows?
Yes, I am,
Simon.
Maybe that's my unpopular
that
opinion that I like Windows. Now that you said,
tell us about this.
That is unpopular.
So why should developers use Windows?
Why should I? Honestly, I just haven't used Linux or Mac yet. I refuse to go into Mac land. I don't know. It's just the lock-in effect seems too big for me. And it's also twice the money for everything. The performance with these M1 chips sounds promising, but apart from that, I don't know. I just haven't encountered any performance issues coding-wise now. I guess it just has also gotten better over the years for Windows. And if you really want to use Linux, you can just use there's this Linux subsystem for Windows. So you can basically have a Linux inside your Windows and install Node and all your stuff in there and run it from there if you want to. I tried it out, but I don't know. It didn't give me the benefit. It just worked well enough for me on Windows. So yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not the same. The subsystem's obviously not the same. And Windows is definitely better than it used to be. I only really use Windows now when I'm installing on a laptop to sell or something like that, or repairing someone else's computer. It's still, to me, it's a bit shonkadonk is what I'd call it. But I think shonkadonk. It's like an extension of the word shonky, which I don't know if it's a common word, but it means
like a big fat cat.
A bit sort of hobbled together. It feels like a sort of patchwork quilt of stuff over the years piled up, especially when in comparison to Linux. And I think, I can see as somebody who should use Windows and Windows only, that it works reasonably well, right? It's sort of straightforward. But, having moved over to Linux probably 14 years ago now, I think, the UI in Windows is incongruent compared to the one in Linux. Like, everything looks the same in Linux. It's nice. It's consistent font sizing. It's consistent UI. You don't have these random tools by all your Wi-Fi card manufacturers that pop up and try and take over your Wi-Fi, setting control. It's just
sounds like you've had some
like
really bad experiences with this.
I mean,
for me,
I
it's
certainly
the
have. I definitely have.
I don't know. I could,
especially talking about Wi-Fi on Linux.
One of the main reasons for not going to Linux is the UI. So I don't know. It just looks so bad to me. I don't know.
I mean, don't forget there are probably 5 or 6 mainstream UIs for Linux.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it just could be complete ignorance on my side, and there are some beautiful Linux desktop UIs.
If you haven't used it, it's fair. Especially if you were to just start using it one day, you'd probably find it extremely infuriating. It took me 8 months of forcing myself to use it before I started to love it, and then now I'll never go back. It's
that's a long
definitely
time.
like a mindset change from Windows, I would say.
Right.
I have a question. I have a follow-up question. Do you use Edge or Chrome?
None of them.
No, Simon, because Simon's on Windows, right?
For work, I use Chrome, but I really thought about switching to Edge just because it's Chromium based now. But in private, I use Firefox.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
very cool.
The
reason I ask is because like I actually tweeted this a while ago and it was pretty funny. This is the full stack Microsoft challenge because you're already using VS Code, you're using TypeScript, you're using GitHub, and then then there's a bunch of others that you can use like Bing, OneDrive, Microsoft To Do, Microsoft OneNote, Azure of course, Microsoft Edge. Your laptop could be Surface, your phone could be Surface Duo, and then the big one is gaming. You can play Minecraft on Xbox. That's
There you go.
that is full stack Linux. I mean, full stack Windows. That really is full stack Microsoft. That's mental. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, for example, I would have probably historically never used anything Microsoft based, but VS Code's fantastic. It really is good. I used to use probably Atom, I think, before that. And I just moved to VS Code and it's fantastic. So there's not, they're not the company they used to be, and they definitely do some good stuff. It's just that for me, Windows isn't one of those things.
Yeah. All right. Other unpopular opinions?
I've got a quick one, I guess. I've been learning Go recently for my new job, and I realized that other languages handle exceptions and errors differently than JavaScript. And I did not know that there was any other way to do this because my only prior exposure was Python and JavaScript, and they treat them the exact same way. But in Go, or let's say in Rust, you don't really throw unless you really like shit is hitting the fan and the error the program needs to end right now. Whereas in JavaScript, it's pretty normal to throw whatever error you want, right? And you just expect someone, you document that someone above should catch you. You expect someone to catch you somewhere, and then the program is going to recover and continue from an error. And so I realized this when I was just like exploring like what's the difference between errors and exceptions. Like I don't know if you guys have ever thought about it.
I have thought about it because in Java, where I originally came from,
there you go.
It's two very different concepts, right? So an exception is something quite normal. It's an exception to the flow of the program or the circumstance you're in. And you can even do exception-driven programming, which I used to do quite a lot, where you just have... So Java has very good exception catching. It doesn't have like JavaScript where you have to inspect what kind of code it is or read some text out of the message. It has explicit types around what you're throwing, so you can make a catch statement with multiple catches and just say, if this type do this, if this type do this. So an error in Java is the thing that if you throw an error in Java, your program quits. That's the end, right? An error is critical. It's your system is broken,
error code 0.
and you always never use them. When you're programming regularly, you never really use them. You shouldn't use them, especially with web apps. But for an exception is quite a normal thing, and it literally means the truest term. It's an exception to the flow you expect to be happening.
Yeah. So I mean that was what it took me a long while to actually get there because I've never used Java. And then the other thing that was confusing was Go actually names them the opposite way around. So exceptions are errors, and then errors are panics.
That's complex.
So it really, really screwed me up. But anyway, the unpopular opinion is you should not use throw in JavaScript unless you can really, really avoid it. You should return an error, or you should return in some sort of error object. I see Simon giving a thumbs up.
Definitely.
That is a hard wiring rework of my brain if I have to do that, to be honest.
Because it's normal to throw, but we should not be randomly throwing like that. It's an abuse of throw.
I mean, there are concepts in, for example, functional programming with this either. So you either return the normal thing or you return something, the exception, so to speak. And then you are forced to handle that all the way up the chain. But I think that's also why it hasn't gotten so popular, because if you have to explicitly handle it every time, which is in general a good thing, I think many people are just lazy and say, okay, I'm just going to throw a try catch somewhere very up the chain and just deal with it there instead of having to pass around this either all the way up. But I think it would make for a much more robust code and more predictable code as well.
I think if you're programming, if you're writing a language, like you said, if you make it too different to everything else that's out there, you split the camp into two types of people. There's those who will adopt it and change their programming habits, which should be few. There are people who will just ignore it completely because it's so different to what they're used to. And then there'll be the fanatics who absolutely just love it, the fact there's everything differently. But that'll, again, be a small camp.
Doesn't this describe the Elm language quite well?
Quite possibly. I've not looked at Elm, but quite possibly.
Elm and Haskell have a either or maybe
monads.
But and then for me, the final realization was that anytime you throw within anything async, and the moment you have you call a promise and you forget to catch, that error just like goes out the window. It's never handled. That doesn't exist. And
goes to the top.
And I think once I actually got mad at JavaScript. I was like, wow, like this is the reason we have shitty programs in JavaScript, because we don't have really good discipline around error handling. Anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. We should stop using
JavaScript.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't have an unpopular opinion, so I'll hop right onto the picks. And
sounds good.
My pick today is a Yubikey 5C Nano. That's a mouthful. It's like one of these security keys that you can plug into your computer, and so you use that instead of a two-factor authentication. Or I guess it is your two-factor authentication. See, there you go. And
I have, same thing.
So I have mine plugged in all the time. It takes up like no space at all. And instead of having to like bring up my phone and get this Google Authenticator or Authy or whatever app you're using, you just touch the device and you're logged in, which is nice.
What if you lose it? What happens?
Yeah, that's a problem. You have to.
I thought you'd have a good solution.
You're screwed.
No, but there are solutions to it. I just haven't really
some people
them.
Some people cut out the tips of their thumb and then put their Yubikey there. So you just plug your thumb in. You'll never lose your thumb.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's crazy. My friend actually did that when he was like 16 or whatever, when he first learned to drive. He dug the palm of his hand out and stuck an RFID chip in there so he could unlock his car by waving at it.
Oh, no. I mean, it's the future. It's the cyberpunk future, so I just got to prepare for this. All right. Any other picks, you guys? What do you...
my pick is, so I do enjoy rum quite a lot. And rum, I think rum's a wonderful drink. I really like it.
Agreed.
And the only problem with rum, of course, is it's full of alcohol, and unless you're a pirate, you can't really sit around drinking it all day. However, I've recently discovered there's a whole explosion in the UK of spirits that don't have alcohol in them. So you can get loads of different gins, lots of white spirits. You can get sort of gins and vodkas that have, they kind of have sort of plant-based stuff in them, and they flavour the drink a bit like alcohol, but they don't quite taste like alcohol. And if you drink them neat, they taste absolutely vile. I found one recently called Clean R, which is basically a sort of alcohol-free rum. It's 1.2%. It's not alcohol-free, but it's 1.2%.
That's so interesting. I read this in the docs, and I thought it was like some weird cleaning product.
No, it's not. I mean, it's maybe it's a body cleaning product. I don't know, but it's it's a rum style or rum based, or I don't know what they call it, like a rum alternative, I suppose. And if you drink it neat, because you have to try it neat, see what it's like. It just tastes like water, which is very odd. It's like drinking a shot of water. You're like, that's very strange. But when you mix it with Coke, it really does emulate that kind of rum and Coke taste really, really well.
That's so weird.
And I think it's because it's actually mostly fragrance. It's like it gives it that kind of smoky, tobacco-y, kind of caramelly smell. And that obviously part of your taste is smell, and it works really well. It's almost like drinking rum and Coke. It even almost has that kind of alcohol bite that you get. So I was quite impressed with it, because a lot of these new on the market alcohol-free drinks are just terrible. Seed lip especially is absolutely vile. It's disgusting. Even if you mix it with what they say you should mix it with, it tastes like absolute rubbish. So I'm really happy with this clean R rum type spirit, which is just fantastic.
Nice.
Cool. I got a quick one if Simon is still thinking of one. So it is the Princess Bride home movie, which is I didn't know about this, but during the pandemic, a lot of celebrities wanted to encourage people to stay home, so they actually recorded sort of word for word performance of Princess Bride, but like on their personal cameras with no props, and it's very like crappy quality, but with all the stars that you might see, like Diego Luna, John Hamm. I don't even know. Like it's like the most number of stars you've ever seen in a single movie, and they reenacted Princess Bride, and it's pretty funny. It's a classic movie if you haven't seen it already, and I just really enjoyed it. It's one of the only good things that came out of Quibi, which is the very short-lived mobile.
Oh, that was the
network.
Oh, right, the mobile
video
TV network thing.
TV network thing that Jeffrey Katzenberg very arrogantly raised $2 billion for and burned it to the ground in 2 years. $2 billion on a startup.
Oh, that's amazing.
And yeah, it's pretty funny, like his arrogance. But like Quibi produced this thing, and this thing is hilarious. So that's the one good thing that came out of Quibi.
I'm gonna check it out. Right, last pick. Do you have something, Simon?
Yeah, my pick is not a thing, but it's an event. It's Fasching. So it's Fasching in German. It's roughly Carnival, which hasn't happened this year, of course, because of the COVID. But I don't know. As a kid, I was you just dress up. You verkleiden. You dress up as something else, like a cowboy or something. That's what I did back in the day. And it was always really fun. And I mean, over time, that excitement diminished a little. But it was always really fun to at least go to these parades where they had all these wagons where they have make fun of politicians or things, and that hasn't happened yet, not yet, but this year. And I don't know. You just know that what you miss until you don't have it. So I really hope that by next year this time we could have Fasching again. And so this is my pick this day.